Tears of the Kingdom is here, and everyone is having tons of fun with it. But I have a problem. What do I choose?
That's the question I've set out to answer in this video. So I've compiled a list of the rankings of everything in the game. But how am I going to decide what aspects of the game are better than others? Arbitrarily. The criteria can be anything. How useful it is, how much it improves the game design, how attractive it is, how weird it is, how good it would be as a fast food worker, its presumed political opinions, or how useful it would be as a pleasurable toy.
Number 6. Number 4.
I'll be going down the list from worst to best and giving brief reasonings for placing each one. Now, with the criteria for ranking set, there should be no confusion for the rest of the video. Starting from the bottom with the bad stuff, we have Move the Korok quests, we crucify them for a reason. Link's underpants, I wish he didn't have them. Sidon's girlfriend.
It should have been me.
The options menu, it's definitely never had sex before. The cartridge for the game. I wouldn't put it on my sandwich. Burrito Village. I wouldn't put it up my butt, but you're free to do so. The whistle no longer grants the infinite stamina it once could. How am I expected to last now? Elixirs gives you superpowers just like alcohol. Pants, take yours off right now. Helper constructs. I wouldn't fuck them. The lack of female Gerudo armor. Now I have to cross-dress in real life. Construct head. You really think they'd be good at it? The Pura Pad. It's fine, but the Sheikah Slate has more features, looks cooler, and is generally cheaper. So I decided to go for a Sheikah Slate. But since everyone else has a Pura Pad, I get bullied for sending green text instead of blue text. Where did the Sheikah stuff go? It's not a big deal, but how did they get rid of a big fuck-off camel? The home screen. Serviceable, but instead of the Zone Eyes wall graffiti, maybe Ganondorf twerking next time? Link's lack of nipples. I'm genuinely not sure if this is less attractive or more attractive. Balloon. Having a balloon inflate in my butt seems good, but the prerequisite of flames is a bit more work than I'd like. Yiga Foot Soldier. While it's a fun idea to have NPCs secretly be Yiga and attack you, it does discourage interaction with characters. The title, Tears of the Kingdom. I thought it said tear, and I was excited for Ganondorf's torn asshole. Water Sage spends too much time talking to Sidon. I tell her to back off, but it's not like I can have him anyway. Moblin, a decent kisser. Light of Blessing, definitely an MLM. For those of you that don't know, an MLM is a multi-level marketing scheme. Essentially, you have one person at the top has all the money, and all we're left with is poverty. But Rauru and Sonia give Link Lights of Blessing so he can sell them to the goddess, and then the goddess just gets screwed. Memory 11, the Demon King's army. How is the horse hot too? Helmets covers up Link's face, turns me off. Great Fairies, sexual assault. Wait, why is this in mid-tier? Gerudo Sage, I'd say I'd hit, but I've really been pushing the line this video, and Necrophilia might be too much. Ultra Hand, Bokoblin Centipede. Shields, what the fuck does this number mean? Great Hyrule Force, finally suppressing the Koroks for their crimes. Auto Build, Auto Bokoblin Centipede. Molduga, a bit more annoying because of not having free bombs, but still a really fun boss. Stakes, I'm not sure what would happen if I tried to put it up my butt, but I'm ready to try. Queen Gibdo. Listen. Hear me out. Ascend. Link. He's alright. North Hyrule Field. If Hyrule was a Vajinjo, this would be the clitoris. Right? Gloomhands. We've all had a fantasy like this, right? Am I too horny? Memory 6. The Gerudo Assault. Do you think he fucks them? What about them? Memory 9. Sonia is caught by treachery. The face I make when God gives a child cancer. Fuse. Zelda, friendly reminder that a woman's worth is determined entirely by her looks. Evil Zelda, a woman who would stab me is more attractive. Dragon Zelda, yeah, this is hotter. Reiju, some of you may be saying pedophilia with her being this high and being 12 years old in Breath of the Wild. But thanks to the next number, Hudson, he had a kid in between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom who is 7 years old, which means at least 7 years have passed between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and that means yet another pedophilia allegation successfully avoided. This little girl. The logo. If this is supposed to be an Ouroboros, which is two dragon heads eating each other, then it probably represents Zelda and Ganondorf, and that means I probably have to censor this. The ending of The Last of Us. So emotional. Rocks. Hell yeah. Memory 17, Tears of the Dragon. Very powerful cutscene, I like it a lot. Rockets. Fuck yeah. Recall. Don't call her back, you'll only receive more pain. Lionels. Yes, this one is ranked so highly because of my extremely difficult to navigate and overly abundant sexual feelings because of my crippling porn addiction that I've come to realize may be getting out of hand over the course of this video. How did you know? And finally, number 1, Sidon's winning smile.
And there you have it. Every single aspect of Tears of the Kingdom ranked in one concise list. Did you have any revelations about your own ambiguous relationship with sexuality? I know I did. Be sure to let me know your sexual revelations in the comments below. And if you'll excuse me, I think I need to get laid. Yo, this is just a quick brief on how the rest of this video is going to go. You may have noticed episode 14 was first, which is different from episode 1, but that's because the first episode of 2023 was the first video I ever made, so I hate it. So I decided to put a video I like more first, just to put my best foot forward. And speaking of the first episode, I considered cutting it and the second episode entirely from the best of because I hate them so much, but I figured I should acknowledge them in some capacity. So here's every time I sexualized Rabbid Mario in episode 1. Why did it do so well? Oh no, it wasn't because of Rabbid Peach's sex appeal. It was because of Rabbid Mario's. Man. It's the best character to the point where it's not even a contest. One of the few things that can compete with Rabbid Mario sexually. Not only are you sexy as you are, and the sexy Rabbid, you have a beautiful heart too. That sexy bastard Rabbid Mario. I could kiss you right now. And here's the only joke I found somewhat passable in episode 2. Now on to Dark Samus, who, if you didn't know, is a girl. Seems kind of sexist to make the guy one the good one and girl one the dark one, but I guess it was a different time. Alright, thank goodness we're done with that. And you'll notice I made a couple other changes to the episode order throughout the video, but those are just to improve pacing, especially with the Everything Ranked series being very different from the regular style. So I figured it just made sense to move some things around. If you really care, comment below, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled, mildly overweight white guy. Kirby villains, the only villains who lose by getting sucked off.
Video games are some of the best villains in media. Bowser is one of the most iconic villains ever. Andrew Ryan is still surprising players to this day, and even recently, Odin and the gods are one of the most terrifying forces I've ever seen.
But do they really compare well to this rat?
You would never expect Maglor or Marx to turn out to actually be a twist villain in such a simplistic world, and they give you so little time to react to it, so you're forced to take in all the emotions at once.
Like divorce!
So they become insane moments that people remember for the rest of their lives. They're even smart about when they do it. If Kirby games were always trying to make a character seem like a good guy and then turn around in an instant and be a bad guy, we'd be ready for it.
Like Nintendo!
In Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Kirby has just saved DDD from his possession, but the beasts are still pursuing them. They have to hurry to the elevator to escape, but as they begin to run, a Waddle Dee, one of DDD's subjects, trips. He realizes this, so he runs to save them, but the elevator door begins to close. King DDD, realizing he won't be able to make it back, throws the Waddle Dee into the elevator, whips out his hammer, and prepares to fight until the very last.
Who's your favorite? Be sure to let me know by painting on the side of your local city hall. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have divorce papers to file. We really can't talk this out? Esports are finally at the Olympics, which means I just have to pick a game and get practicing to win a gold medal.
And just dance.
Genuinely, how is this going to work?
How do you pick a song? Are songs with different dancers allowed? What if your controller is faulty? What if you accidentally bump the other player's controller? Did the Olympics get the right to play those songs live on broadcast? What about people who don't speak the same language? How are they going to pick a song? How sweaty will the players be at the end of the competition?
Training is going well. It almost seems like the Olympic Committee is trying to set up esports for failure.
That must have been the plan from the start. They were tired of us basement-dwelling, oversized, irate gamers complaining about how we wanted our gamer games.
They think they can get rid of us basement-dwelling, oversized, irate gamers, but we can't let them. And we win exactly. So win.
Come on now, race! Everybody supersonic racing. Try to keep your feet right on the ground. When you're supersonic racing, there's no time to look around. We're just supersonic racing, running to the point of no return. Everybody supersonic racing. Come on, let the fire burn.
I'm not improving fast enough. I need to go even further.
Running to the point of
Bowser and the Koopalings, kids, babies. Bowser has been taken from so many different angles over the years. He's been goofy, he's been scary, he's been arousing to certain members of the population, and everything in between. This has led to some people feeling that Bowser isn't represented in the way that he should be, but I think that's what makes him work so well. He's been in so many different roles and situations at this point that you can imagine him doing anything. He is clearly designed to be a scary villain, but he's not scary to the point that he can't be seen doing goofy things or even being humanized in some cases. We're left with this incredibly versatile character who can clearly fit every role given to him,
including the greatest role given to him by the internet.
Bowsette is Bowser combined with Princess Peach. In New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, the power-up the Super Crown was introduced. If Toadette grabbed it, she would turn into Peachette, a version of Peach but with some of Toadette's features. The question naturally popped up,
What would happen if we put a super crown on a piranha plant?
this all escalated to the point where we were putting Super Crowns on Super Crowns, and the most popular character to see in Super Crown form was Bowser. I think this is because he's the most versatile villain in existence, so seeing him with boobs is somewhat natural. One day, Count Bleck, who was known as Blumiere back then, was injured after falling off a cliff. He was found by a human woman named Timpani, who is the human form of your companion throughout the game, Tippy. Timpani nursed him back to health, and despite Blumiere's father's warnings to stay away from humans, Blumiere fell in love and finally felt purpose in life. His father was not happy when he found out, so he banished Timpani from their dimension and wiped her memory. Blumiere wanders dimensions looking for his lost love, but he never finds her. And having decided that life and existence is meaningless without love, he wipes his entire dimension from existence and decides that nothing else deserves to exist. He's actually somewhat sympathetic and is coming from a relatable adult angle of feeling like he has no purpose in life.
If only someone could give me purpose in life. If only someone could consciously fall in love with me and want to spend the rest of their life with me.
And at the end of the game, he finally reunites with Timpani and he's able to find purpose again and is willing to sacrifice himself to not destroy all dimensions. In Mario & Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story, a game that answers the question,
how does Bowser shit?
In Bowser's Inside Story, he is even more entertaining than before and even more threatening. His plan is by far the most unhinged of any plan a villain has enacted. His plan is to make all the Toads fat to get all of the major protagonists in Peach's castle, have Bowser eat a mushroom that gives him sucking powers so he can eat everyone in the castle, lure Bowser back to Bowser's castle to make him fat so he falls through the floor so he can extract Peach through Bowser's ass and use Peach to power the Dark Star so he can obtain its power and become a godlike entity to kill everyone.
He's perfect. Oh shit, I forgot about Princess Shroob.
Honestly, Shroob isn't anything special. And she can't even have a Super Crown version because she's already wearing a dress and has a mushroom crown. Holy shit, she's the origin.
She started it all. It was because of her. She's the reason I've seen so much fan art of a female Bowser with a cock. Kirby lore, the closest thing Nintendo has to a religion. The only thing missing are child predator leaders.
I've made a video in the past on what the Kirby villains bring to the table in terms of the base story that you get while playing the game. But now we're going to explore what they have to offer when you stop playing. Kirby's lore was mostly surface level until the addition of the pause screens. But now with the pause screens, we can learn about global warming, animal abuse, and domestic abuse. The scientific ancients would go on to create many of the great scientific artifacts we see throughout the games, like the clockwork stars, the lore star cutter, and the blueprints for Star Drain. And the magical ancients would create some of the great magical artifacts, like the star rod and the master crown. But one day, for an unknown reason, the scientific ancients began to fear the magical ancients' power, and out of nowhere, they decided to get rid of the magical ancients.
Like divorce.
So the magical ancients were banished to the edge of the galaxy. This would make them very angry, and some of the ancients would hope for revenge one day. But for some reason, all of the ancients went extinct. The scientific ancients likely went extinct on a Shiver Star because of some incident. Perhaps their chat GPT became too powerful. The magical ancients, however, have no known reason for going extinct.
I guess the Harry Potter boycotts must have just been really effective in the Kirby universe.
Up to this point, Kirby has successfully beaten back everyone who stood in his way. But can he beat himself?
You're looking a bit heavier, man.
You been eating right? At the edge of the galaxy, the magical ancients were slowly wiped out. Everyone believed that the magical ancients were extinct from this world, but one remained, known as Highness. Highness would read the Book of Legends and learn about Void, and one day even believed he was sent a vision from Void himself. He believed Void would bring him to a new and peaceful land if he freed him from the Jambahart. And after everything that happened to his clan, he would take anything. This is when the Jam Bastion religion was formed. He set out on an adventure to find Void and release him from his prison. On his travels, he would come across 3 women, one freezing to death in the blizzard, another suffocating in a fire, and another having been struck by lightning in an attempt to take her own life. He saved each of them and taught them the Jam Bastion religion and granted them magical powers, making them the 3 Mage Sisters: Francisca, Flamberge, and Zan Partizan. Highness treated these 3 like daughters, and they all loved and respected him. They would continue their journey to find the Jambahart, but as time passed, Highness would begin to slowly lose himself after everything that's happened to him. And he would slowly become obsessed with getting revenge for his clan by destroying everything with the power of Void. And when he's nearly completely lost himself, he finds it, the Jamba Heart. He begins to attempt to free Void, but he doesn't fully understand how, and accidentally shatters the Jamba Heart, sending its pieces flying across the galaxy. Highness would send the 3 Mage Sisters and the other members of his religion, the Jam Believers, out to retrieve the pieces. This would lead them to eventually arrive on Popstar, where they would find that Kirby and friends have already leapt into action. While Kirby would attempt to stop them, they would still retrieve many fragments of the Jambahart and bring them back to Highness. But it's not enough to reactivate Void. Francisca and Flamberge would attempt to stop Kirby, but they would fail. Kirby would arrive to Highness, but Zan Partizan would make her last stand to stop Kirby, but she is no match for the Pink Puff. She calls out to Highness to help her, but Highness has completely lost all emotions at this point and swats her aside. He then proceeds to use the bodies of the 3 Mage Sisters to stop Kirby, no longer seeing them as people, but as mere tools to his goals. But not even Highness can stop Kirby, and after being defeated, reaches his most desperate state. He needs to complete Void, so he takes his daughters, whom he used to love, and sacrifices them to the Jambahart, before jumping in himself, and the ancient evil is finally summoned. Who is your favorite? Be sure to let me know by leaving a threatening note outside my door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a divorce court hearing to attend. We're not bringing the roach porn up in front of the judge. Yo, I'm a college student and I've been living off of low-effort snacks for months now, so I want to expand my palate. So I opened up my favorite search engine and began research. In Pizza Tower, you play as Peppino, a disgusting little chef who finally gives fat people another cosplay opportunity. Peppino finds out that Pizza Face will destroy his pizza place if he doesn't scale the Pizza Tower to defeat him. And as he enters the Pizza Tower, the player is met with beautiful animations, music, and sound design. This game immediately hooks you when you look at it. The way Peppino moves, the TV in the corner that changes depending on what's happening to Peppino, and when you press the X button, Peppino does a super taunt where you can do many kinds of personality-filled poses. The gameplay loop of this game doesn't make sense. It's trying to be too many things at once, leading it to being none of them. But then why do I enjoy playing this game so much? Somehow, all of the parts of Pizza Tower come together to form something that can be enjoyed by anybody. Like pizza. Somehow, all of these awkward parts of Pizza Tower make an amazing game. Every awkward part feeds into one another, and you end up with an overall gameplay loop that actually works. Exploring the levels can feel awkward, but Peppino's moveset makes it a breeze, and you get to watch all of the animations with each new enemy and type of obstacle they introduce. Escaping feels too easy, and exploring during the escape feels counterintuitive, but the knowledge you gained while exploring makes it so you can properly weigh risk-reward during the escape for what to explore, and makes you feel smart for remembering things. And as everything feeds into one another, you find yourself trapped in the gameplay loop, and before you know it, the game's over. But now you want to go back and perfect all those levels. You understand this game way more now, and now you're ready to use it all to your advantage to get high scores. The whole game synergizes together in a way that makes the game a blast.
They told us that the final thing we need to make a pizza is synergy. And now, it's pizza time.
Starting from the very bottom, we have Hey Pikmin. Nothing else from this godforsaken game will be ranked for the rest of the video. Electric wires, despite popular belief, is not an effective form of pleasure. Bud Pikmin. I know that's what buds are supposed to look like, but I also know what Rule 34 is. Puckering Blino. Oh god, there's Pikmin Rule 34. Olimar's Kid. Failed abortion. The shower room.
Uh-oh.
Stone Spray. This technically hardens faster, but Viagra is the safer option. Flying Pikmin walls. Unlike every other obstacle, there isn't a permanent solution, just like me and my girlfriend's arguments over whether or not it is acceptable to throw a dog into a wall for my YouTube video. Pikmin 1 title screen. None of these Pikmin were ever called back to the Onion and died brutally. Olimar Amiibo. Yellow Pikmin. Terrorist. Jewelry-based treasure. Reminds me of my girlfriend who broke up with me over a silly argument. The fact we have never seen any of the captains shirtless. It's just a bad marketing tactic if you ask me. That time an idiotic YouTuber flushed an Olimar amiibo down the toilet. I found it disrespectful and he wouldn't even admit to the plumber his sins. The fact that humans are gone but everything is still intact. That means that we will go extinct soon since there can't be any significant technological advances or else the Pikmin timeline just won't make sense. Impact site.
That's what I used to call my girlfriend, you know. Used to.
Bumbling Snitchbug. Frequently gropes me, but I'm not sure I'm against it. Spuddlefish. I think it wants a kiss, but I don't know if I want that to be my first kiss. Timer. I swear to God, this lies to you and changes at random. Cavern of Chaos. I think cave names make me think of body holes too fast. Pikmin 3 final cutscene. Louis BDSM. Bombable walls. I need to put these up around my heart to keep the negative and sometimes psychopathic-esque tendencies inside and that I won't lose all of those who love me. Pikmin 1 cover art depicts the struggles of warfare in a beautiful way. Olimar's Nose, an absolute classic and near perfection. Lock On.
Target acquired.
A picture of a cross I found on the Pikmin wiki. Do you think there is a Pikmin Jesus? And if there is, do you think they argue over his skin color? Walls will also contain the emotion around my heart, but with enough effort will let them spill out. This could result in violence, but my therapist said it was the only way I could get over the breakup. Pikmin 2 cover art depicts the struggles of naval warfare immaculately. Awakening Wood.
I am incredibly uncomfortable.
Brittany, I don't want to make a joke about her out of fear of misogyny, but I feel like not making a joke is also misogynistic in its own way. I am too naive to be navigating the landscape of marginalized groups. Louie's grandma. Empress Bullblacks. I know I said in the Zelda ranking I'd work on my weird relationship with sexuality, but come on. Candy Pop Buds brutally changes the race of people and is technically the fastest way to equality, ethics aside. Purple Pikmin loves grilled cheese. Bingo Battle, the peak of all multiplayer modes. The god that stands over Smash Brothers and Mario Kart. Not Jackbox nor Overcooked can challenge its throne. And if you haven't played it, you really should. And finally, number 1, Bulborbs. They're just really cool, man.
And there you have it. Every single aspect of Pikmin ranked in one concise list. We may have lost some loved ones along the way, but hey, the reasoning didn't make any sense and we didn't want them anyway. And now if you'll excuse me, I didn't even actually throw the dog, but just suggesting it is psychopathic. What does that even mean? You didn't tell me it was not bringing harm to other animals before? Yo, have you ever wanted to go, for an hour and a half? Well then do I have the movie for you.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Let's stop making fun of critics and just talk about this movie we all enjoyed.
I'll start us with a conversation topic about the true nature of one of the characters from the Mario movie. I mentioned earlier that Bowser seems to somehow know where Mario is and what he's doing at all times, which would mean he either has a very powerful intelligence division throughout the Mushroom Kingdom. But there is one exception where his intelligence division fails, where he is unaware of what is going on. After DK and Mario get separated from the group, they manage to make it all the way back to Peach's castle without Bowser hearing anything about it. There is a common denominator to what Bowser knows and doesn't know. Some of the more intelligent among you will have figured it out. Toad! Toad is the only character who could have known of all of these events and wouldn't know that Mario and Donkey Kong are alive. He inexplicably follows them wherever they go with his excuse being that he's going to defend Peach. But I call bullshit. There's guards with spears that could defend Peach. Why is this Toad in particular going to defend her? He just wants to stay close to Mario and Peach so he can report back to Bowser.
The homie reporting Bowser, so then he and Peach would get married, so then with Bowser now respecting him, he'll be able to spy on Peach and Bowser while they The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is right around the corner, and we're finally going to get to see all of the old characters again. Link, Prince Sidon, Zelda. No!
The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom final trailer has been released, and the hype around it is rising as the countless theories are created.
And if we take a look at this scene, we can tell that there's going to be some premium tentacle content when this releases. Be sure to subscribe for the next video where we analyze the next 3 frames of the trailer.
Breath of the Wild and many other open world games live off of their world. A completely unknown place that, unlike in real life, can't result in real world consequences for exploring.
But Ubisoft said if I could see it, I could go there.
The open world genre has gained so much traction in the past decade. This genre does come with its own issues, like the fact that you'll end up exploring the game more than your real life relationships.
Not now, Teddy, I'm gaming.
And more importantly, replayability drops significantly on repeat playthroughs because you already know where at least some of the interesting stuff is. This normally isn't an issue though, because the game already has hours of content on the first playthrough, so only the most dedicated players will need to replay the game.
I will divorce you.
But Tears of the Kingdom is reusing the map from Breath of the Wild. It's clear from the trailers they're adding a whole bunch of stuff to the world, but that's not going to make it the same as exploring it for the first time. You're still going to recognize a lot of the world, and you're no longer the guy exploring a woman's bathroom for the first time. You're a guy who's been arrested before and are now noticing that they added a urinal. Since the release of Breath of the Wild, there's been another game with the world on an even higher level. Elden Ring was released last year, and it completely changed the standard for what a good open world is. This is the greatest open world ever made. In fact, I've heard it criticized for having too much to do, which is the best criticism you can have as an open world game. It's like being criticized for having breasts that are too large. This open world is densely packed with interesting things to find around every corner. It becomes like a vandalized women's bathroom with all kinds of things to find and messages on the walls. And while you could argue the game doesn't deserve to be compared to Elden Ring, no matter what, this game is going to be pitted directly against it. And the map being the same is going to make it incredibly difficult to live up to a vandalized bathroom. We still know so little about the game, despite the trailers and gameplay showcases, so all I really have to go off of is speculation. I could walk into this woman's bathroom and be delighted with the unique flushing mechanisms, or I could flush the toilet and be clipped right through the floor and have my Switch brick. So I'll await, with bated breath, the release of Tears of the Kingdom.
Which women's bathroom was your favorite? Be sure to let me know in prison when we meet, because that was a real women's bathroom, and I'm now a real registered sex offender. Yo, you know how you're not allowed to kill people?
So instead, we have to get rid of them. But how are we gonna do that?
You're the hat.
Tacked on multiplayer modes, an often underappreciated art form by the developers. Nowadays, it's not so common to see games with both standalone single player and multiplayer modes. Developers realize that people often don't want both out of games, and we're buying games either primarily for multiplayer or single player. But it sure took them a while to figure that out. For a while, a lot of single player games needed some multiplayer component shoved in there. Probably because some producer decreed at the last second, what about people that have friends? So developers would then attempt to throw something in without actually caring. Mario would still come to our rescue in the first of many pointless multiplayers. Mario and a few other games from this time would add multiplayer in the form of taking turns. When one person dies, the other person gets to play, but the end result is just 2 people playing 2 different games. You're basically just playing Mario, but you have to watch someone play when you mess up.
Oh, Hand slipped. Your turn.
In 2007, when BioShock first released, it was already expected for FPS games to have single and multiplayer modes. But BioShock bravely didn't have multiplayer, probably because it never crossed the developer's mind to add multiplayer, but when people realized it didn't have multiplayer, some people decided to criticize it. A game designed exclusively around a single-player adventure didn't have multiplayer?
Yes, one game, please. Where's the porn?
So the developers opted to respond to the criticism and made the decision to add a bog standard and mediocre multiplayer mode to their sequel to, quote, justify the $60 price tag.
Now it's worth my money.
It's a single player game. A mediocre multiplayer mode isn't going to be the difference between someone buying it and not buying it. Who are these modes even for? You'd have to be someone who is so into first-person shooters that you will play literally any of them, or what happened to the majority of people is that they bought BioShock for the single player, decided to try it out, thought it was fun for a bit, and then never played it again.
Well, that was a fun 30 seconds. Let's do something else now.
Some of you may have noticed up to this point, I have neglected to talk about a certain genre of multiplayer modes from Nintendo. Because some of the dumbest multiplayer modes are found in the Wii U. The Wii U famously had confusion.
What the fuck?
Nintendo, needing to alleviate the confusion, wanted to push every possibility with the Wii U gamepad. One of these possibilities was to have someone play on the gamepad while someone else or even multiple other people play on the TV screen. This did result in some great multiplayer modes. Nintendo Land is still talked about for its incredibly fun minigames. But Nintendo wasn't entirely on the mark when it came to all of the multiplayer modes. New Super Mario Bros. U had this worthless platform placing mode that was not fun to use at all, but in theory it should make the game easier. But you need to have some level of coordination with the other players, and since Little Bro was the only person you could trick into playing this mode, play sessions would normally end early. Star Fox Zero made a similar mistake to Odyssey, splitting controlling the ship and controlling the shooting between the two players. But that game did receive a lot of complaints based on the control scheme, and this would make it easier to control, so this one isn't all bad. But there is one terrible Wii U multiplayer that takes inspiration from both Nintendo's bad decision making and bad FPS games.
Splatoon!
A game known for how many funny ways you can say the title.
Sploon! Spooning! Oh god, they're 14, what have I done?
But more primarily for its entertaining online multiplayer. A robust and entirely unique gameplay style that, instead of being focused around specific objectives or eliminating your opponent, focuses on covering the ground in your team's ink. Many people really like this game with the online mode alone, but Nintendo decided to go above and beyond and added some bonus modes like arcade minigames, a single player campaign, and for some reason, local multiplayer. It was called the Battle Dojo, a two-player mode played on both the gamepad and the TV screen. Realizing it wouldn't make sense to just have a regular turf war mode with only 2 players, they decided to create this balloon popping mode where 2 players converge on a specific point to pop balloons. Who is going to want to play this mode? First of all, it's entirely unbalanced. The person on the gamepad can just look up and see where the other person is at any given time, while the person playing on the screen doesn't have any idea what the other person is doing. Second of all, with such an unbalanced mode, large swaths of points are often decided in mere seconds, since killing an opponent is so fast and you spawn far enough away from the balloons that you won't make it back in time for your opponent to steal all of the balloons. And third of all, it takes advantage of none of the unique aspects of Splatoon's gameplay, like every other mode does, and you're left with this half-baked mode that could be in any other shooter. They couldn't have added any options on different modes or let us do anything generally interesting within the mode, just leave us with the worst Wii U gamepad justification ever.
Why would you play this dude with a friend? Why would you play any of these multiplayer modes? In fact, why would you play video games at all? You know what, Teddy? We're going outside. We're gonna play like real men.
Teddy, we agreed on pistols. That's cheating. That's not fair.
Zelda villains. They're hot.
And they're the driving force behind any Legend of Zelda game.
And trust me, I'm driven.
And while there are other villains who could be reincarnations of Demise's hatred, he generally takes the form of either a really large pig or the luckiest man to ever live. Ganon and or Ganondorf is the primary antagonist of most of the Legend of Zelda games. Known for being the king of evil, wreaking havoc across any land he inhabits, and cucking Link. Skull Kid is technically just a regular member of a race called Skull Kids, a race of kids who got lost in the woods and decided to solve this problem by putting on straw clothing, shooting needles at strangers, and committing blackface. Girahim is a persistent villain throughout the game, trying to kidnap Zelda so he can resurrect his master Demise and maybe kiss Link along the way, and all the while giving countless theater kids new personality traits and fetishes. Zant wasn't originally the ruler of the Twilight. It was initially Midna, your companion throughout the game. Zant was originally going to be the next ruler, but was rejected by the royal family, seen as his lust for conquest and power was too dangerous and could lead to another war with the Hylians. So he decided to take it by force and defeated the royal family, stole Midna's power, and turned Midna into a new avenue for awakening fetishes and children.
Nintendo made me this way.
His power was entirely unmatched, and after he begins to rule the Twilight, he uses them to completely engulf Hyrule in the Twilight and is about to succeed in taking over the land, something his ancestors failed to accomplish. Link leaps into action, and after assuming a new form that gives another avenue for awakenings in young teens,
Babe, you gotta believe me, I didn't want this because of Shiggy McGee.
and decides to reveal that Ganondorf was pulling the strings the whole time, completely taking Zant's chance of being one of the greatest Zelda villains away. It takes away from Zant's power or cunning, revealing it was all Ganondorf the whole time. This isn't to say that this incarnation of Ganondorf is bad or that Zant is now a bad character. Far from it. It's to say that it is incredibly disappointing to see what could have been a great villain just get snuffed out by this decision. Nintendo was writing an amazing character, and then at some point ate Clorox wipes and forgot how to not include Ganondorf.
It's time for the big boy to retire. And this was filmed before Tears of the Kingdom came out, so maybe that's exactly what'll happen in Tears of the Kingdom, and it'll be great. But whatever happens, I hope I come out of this game a completely normal person and unchanged, and I'll be in the bathroom. Yo, I have money. Hey.
Inflation.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely disappointing to fork over $10 extra for a game, but not bad enough to not buy the biggest games every year. But with inflation going up and the cost of developing games constantly rising, who can blame these companies?
I can blame anyone for anything. For example, John Wilkes Booth is dead, and I still run free.
The price for a AAA Atari game was generally around $40. Prices would generally be much more flexible back then, as they were still trying to figure out how to sell a bunch of pixels that were meant to represent this would bring us to the current pattern of game price growth. All PS2, Xbox, and GameCube games were at $50. Then Xbox 360 and PS3 would jump up to $60, while Nintendo remained at $50 and changed their discs. Xbox One and PS4 would remain at $60, and Nintendo would catch up with Wii U games at $60 and would change their discs again. And then PS5 and Xbox Series X would start to make the jump to $70, and the Switch would still be behind at $60, and Nintendo would change back to cartridges. Collector's editions that cost twice as much as a game that only give you an art book that an intern whipped up in a day. Here we can see Uni's boobs from the front. Here we can see them from the side. And here we can see them from behind.
Yo, have you ever wanted to change your skin?
Downloadable content. The latest and greatest way to serve customers either the best and most refined version of your game, or get customers to pay 75 cents out of their living adult wages for a skeleton.
Strip Club Incorporated.
Good job.
Bro 2 was the third installment in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. It features not only the human drive to accrue as much wealth as you possibly can, whether or not you even need it, but also extra level packs. They would make 10 packs over the course of 3 months, costing about $2.50 each, bringing the overall total to about $25. With each pack containing about 3 levels, it was 30 levels for $25, which is a bit overpriced. But since it was only $2.50 a pack, it did kind of fool you if you were only buying them one at a time, and by the time you realized you had lost $25, you're already picking up some extra shifts.
Yeah, I'll wear the bikini.
They also changed the physics to be more slippery and jump higher to match Luigi's physics in games like Super Mario Bros. 2 Not New. This was a little controversial because Luigi's oiled up shoes made it difficult to come to a stop while running, making precision platforming more difficult, but many were able to excuse it, not only because they were imagining Luigi's feet lather than oil, but because it encouraged going through these shorter levels incredibly quickly. It was overall a success, and Nintendo would be ready to go into the world of DLC by completely subverting the system. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is about exploiting a broken man's terrible life situation so you can get his goods for cheaper.
Don't need the minimum wage.
One of the few successful attempts to justify this, we got what might be the most captivating DLC of all time. Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and whatever the fuck was Nintendo's biggest DLC yet. Nintendo would continue the DLC train with Smash Ultimate coming back swinging even harder than Smash 4, and players would get even harder than Smash 4. Mario Kart would double the size of its track roster. Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing, Hyrule Warriors, Mario Rabbids, Pokemon, Captain fucking Toad all got DLC that was really meaty or at least priced fair for the amount of content. Nintendo was doing a good job of extrapolating our money from us and making it feel fair, and some of us were struggling to keep up.
You're not ugly. Men want you.
But I'm pretty sure this is completely superfluous. It will be coming with some kind of single-player campaign later that could justify the price, but why did they add this? It accomplishes nothing other than incentivize pre-ordering the future campaign a year ahead of time. These DLC could paint the beginning of a pattern. Most of these DLCs aren't necessarily bad, other than the Sploon example, but they clearly have less thought and effort put into them. I think that's because Nintendo is starting to see less value in high-quality DLC, and it's starting to show. Obviously, they never directly stated this, but it seems Nintendo is starting to see DLC as more of a quick buck than anything else. This is just the beginning of a potential pattern, and it could just as easily be an off couple of years, but I think Nintendo is going to start releasing more DLC that nobody is going to care about.
Hopefully this pattern doesn't continue. And there's really no real evidence that Nintendo is thinking this way, so maybe we have nothing to worry about. But either way, if Nintendo keeps releasing DLC, you're gonna have to promise to tip well. Yo, I'm PMJ, short for Pissed in My Jeans, and I spent $70 on a silly digital game.
That's all for today's Nintendo
No
Direct.
DLC announcement, what the fuck?
Thank you for watching.
But we've had the Direct that followed the release of Tears of the Kingdom already, and not even a season pass teaser with pre-orders to capitalize off of people's hype. Nope, we had an entire Direct, and the most we get from Tears of the Kingdom is cum jar ornaments. Where is this seemingly no-brainer DLC? Does Nintendo just not want to do it? Should Tears of the Kingdom even receive DLC? Where would the DLC even fit in the game? What the fuck is a Sage's Will used for? And with all the ideas they had implemented in the game, they delayed the game. And one more round of depressed Nintendo fans later.
Oh, I'm not a Zelda fan. I'm still waiting for Star Fox Grand Prix.
They finally released the game, and it would get amazing reviews. It would sell like crazy, and Best Buy employees everywhere would suffer. The Master Trials takes one of the most interesting areas in the game, Eventide Island, which takes away all your equipment, forcing you to scavenge for new tools, weapons, and food in order to get all of the balls in the holes, and unlock the shrine, and expands it in the Master Trials to have tons of challenges, creating a really fun mode. It's the most fun you can have naked. DLC has become expected in the gaming industry at this point when it comes to large games. It's one of the constants of gaming, right up there with yearly Pokemon games and sexual harassment by CEOs. Defendant, why did you drink that woman's breast milk?
Well, sir, they promoted me.
It's kind of like how when you're at a restaurant and after a good meal, you try to eat the plate, but they have hard glass plates and you just can't eat it like you could a nice paper plate at home. It leaves a slightly negative feeling when walking away, no matter how good the meal was. So why would Nintendo take such a big risk on the integrity of the game when they've already made something so close to perfect? Why wouldn't Aonuma just look up around him to the sky and see all the fun everyone is having with the game, and then down to the depths to see the cesspool of Ganondorf fan art and just be proud of the game he created?
So, Tears of the Kingdom probably won't be receiving DLC. But that's not inherently a bad thing. What could they even add to the game that we don't already have? We all had tons of fun with the game, and maybe we should just be happy we're not spending $30 extra for a few extra shrines and some new equipment. But hey, before you go, Don't call it a cesspool, man. We make art. Yo, I'm PMJ, and I just watched the Nintendo Direct, and I need to figure out what I liked best. The niche JRPG with anime cover art but pixel art style, or the niche farming sim with anime cover art but a pixel art style.
Starting from the bottom, we have Ayuden Chronicle, whatever. A niche JRPG will never stand out in a Nintendo Direct ever, and that's not how humans spell names. Rating pending to rated M screen. I'm sorry to the poor kid whose mom made him turn off the Direct when the M rating showed in order to protect him from triangles. Takahashi interruption number 7. That's right, he interrupts 7 times. Triple move. There will be at least 2 weird fan fictions with this title. Horizon Chase 2. They made a second one because there was a first one. Handstand jump. I can't do it. Takahashi Interruption 5. Do you think the controller is having a good time? Ganondorf amiibo. Awkward shape. Could be hard to fit into certain glassware. Takahashi Interruption 1. He advertises replayability as if it's a unique feature. Pearl. Slightly better now that I don't have to look at her, but deep down I still know she looks like this. Peachette. I thought they'd want us to forget. Wicked Grape will be sexualized. Takahashi Interruption 3. Thank you for telling me what happened in the trailer, Mr. Takahashi. Oct. We are waiting on age reveal until we proceed any further. Agent 8. She's 14, 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 she's 14. Takahashi Interruption 6. He gives us the worst montage of all time, but then he gives us Paper Mario, so it balances out. Zelda amiibo. High value, nondescript glassware ornament. Takahashi Interruption 5. He actually was necessary to reveal things this time. Thank you very much, Mr. Takahashi. Peach Showtime. I'm not sure why this game exists, but normally when Nintendo just makes a game where the point is to be as creative as possible, it turns out well. So I'm looking forward to this, but I'm not completely sold. Kung Fu Peach. Oh. Okay, maybe I'm... And of course, number 1, the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door remake. I've never actually played this game, but they put it at the end of the Direct, and people were screaming, and unless they were screams of horror, this was probably the best announcement, but I don't actually care that much.
As you can tell from my beautifully put together list, I thought that Direct sucked. But of course it did. It's the end of Switch's lifespan after all. The big games are being saved for the next big console, while we're getting the scraps of what they can put out, while the majority of Nintendo works on the next big console. So we're not going to have any big games. But in the meantime, why not enrich other skills like social skills, hygiene, drawing. Drawing's a really good one. You could draw Kung Fu Peach fan art. Oh, I know a really good exercise. You draw a picture of Kung Fu Peach kicking me in the balls. That would be awesome. You should do that. You should draw that. You should draw that. Yo, I'm PMJ, and have you ever had a bad idea? Yeah.
Nintendo! The most iconic gaming company of all time, owning series like Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, and many more recognizable series. And over all the years that they've been making games, they've managed to get themselves one of the greatest reputations as a game developer. No matter how much they try to lose it. The Wii was Nintendo's first Blue Ocean strategy-based system, and for some fucking reason it worked. They would grab every grandma under the sun and sell 100 million systems. And as we all know, this would change the way Nintendo would function forever. After the success of the Wii, they wanted so desperately to replicate this success again. People like 3D movies will add a useless mechanic to our handheld. People like jokes will make the Wii U. Ring Fit Adventure was a game that was designed to get gamers up and moving. I don't own it. This game rewards you for working out by letting you see a jacked demon. It's a full campaign with tons of levels, various challenges, and enemies to be conquered by the ring. The challenges aren't insanely interesting, but the point is obviously to be good at squats, not good at playing video games. But the game is still entertaining enough to keep you jogging in place for a pretty long time, made clear by the game selling over 15 million copies. So Nintendo clearly still has the ability to pull in the masses and have these odd ideas work, but do they have any grasp over this ability and why it works?
Do I have any chance of getting over my porn addiction?
So... every Nintendo Labo Toy-Con ranked. How are we ranking them? Arbitrarily. Here we go. Submarine steering. We all know submarines are controlled with Logitech controllers. House, teasing me with something I'll never have. Car wheel, inaccurate to real-life car steering. Motorcycle is not good at getting me a girlfriend. Toy piano, I hate band kids. Plane steering, mildly phallic, I giggled. VR, eye strain and arm strain. Vibration car is trying his best. Fishing, very good at getting me a girlfriend. Robot, I have to have sex in this. So Nintendo Labo failed, even if it was an interesting idea. But hey, they were clearly on the right track. Maybe they can still figure out how to get a Blue Ocean to buy the Switch. I don't think there's a chance. What the fuck is this? 1-2 Switch. 1-2 Switch, in a similar vein to Nintendo Labo, is meant to show off what the Joy-Cons can do. But this time, they were going for more of a Wii Sports or Nintendo Land type of showcase. A pack-in title for the system that gives you a quick demo of the console, but also gives you tons of fun activities to do with your new system that you may not have any games for yet. It's not a pack-in title. It's $50 goddamn dollars. This just shows how out of touch Nintendo can be sometimes. The reason that Wii Sports was such a memorable phenomenon was because it was a pack-in title that was easy to understand and made the console look fun. This accomplishes none of that. First of all, it wasn't a pack-in title, so nobody bought it. Second of all, it wasn't always easy to understand because the point of the game is inherently flawed. The game is built on the idea that the game does not take place on the screen, but between the two players as they face each other. I have no idea what's going on. It's a fine concept, but it just causes confusion. The way games prevent confusion as to what's going on is by explaining to people what's going on the screen, which is the most basic level of game design. And while these games are simple, you still end up confused from time to time. And while there are some where you don't have to face each other, there's still plenty of times where Nintendo just gets too ambitious with the controls and thinks that simulating shaving a face with your face is a good idea. And finally, it doesn't make the console seem fun. Most of these games look stupid, and they're all completely one-dimensional. Wii Sports doesn't have any particularly complex games either, but there is at minimum a single layer of complexity. Very few of these games have a strategy beyond be better at the very simple action than your friend. There are a couple where you have to outsmart your friend, but it still isn't to a point of being fun like an average Wii Sports game.
A large part of me wishes Nintendo would give up on these things. There just really isn't space in the market for an idea like this to work in the modern day. But for whatever reason, Nintendo keeps doing it, and if that's what they want to do, nothing we can do about it. But if Nintendo can keep making self-destructive decisions and get away with it, maybe my addiction isn't so bad. Yo, I'm PMJ, and I've been trying to work on my productivity as a human, so I've decided to try exploiting others to work through my problems faster.
You're gonna refill the car's gas, and you are gonna hang out with my girlfriend for me.
And now I will make us rich.
That is the art of Dandori that Pikmin 4 is built on. Dandori is a Japanese word that means to be effective at organizing your tasks and completing them in a timely manner. And it's not only a word that sums up Pikmin 4, but it's also a very effective insult. Pikmin 4 is the latest game that you had heard people complain about not coming out for 10 years, and while you pretended to complain with them, you didn't actually care and then didn't buy the game when it came out. But as one of the few who actually cared about the game we were complaining about, I'm here to talk about it today and truly understand what it means to be Dandori.
Will I finally be able to reach the peak of Dandori, or will I fail, procrastinate, and massacre thousands?
Almost everyone knows the story of why fans wanted Pikmin 4 so bad and were always expecting it to come out soon, so I won't spend too much time on it. But Miyamoto said it was almost done in 2015, and now it's been 8 years. What the fuck is wrong with you, Shiggy McGee? This is the guy who's telling us to be Dandori and it took 8 years to get a Pikmin game out? Odds are he was referring to Hey Pikmin, the 3DS game that released in 2017. But that game was the complete opposite of what fans wanted. It was a 2D puzzle platformer in a 3D RTS style series and sold so terribly that no Pikmin fans thought that it was a real Pikmin game.
I love all 3 Pikmin games. I love all 3 Pikmin games. I love all 3 Pikmin games. I love all 3 Pikmin games.
I mean, surely it can't be that good, right?
The rescue pup Ochi will also be a helping hound.
A crippled dog!
Pikmin 4 plays just like every other real Pikmin game. Collect all of the designated items using your Pikmin to be as Dandori as possible before the sun goes down in order to either escape the planet, cure world hunger, inflate the economy of an entire planet just so you can erase your own terrible decisions, or defeat Louie. Ochi's able to alleviate some of the difficulty just how he alleviates my will to hurt others. The main thing that Ochi can do to alleviate a lot of the difficulty is wrangle all of the Pikmin onto his back, so then you can't lose any Pikmin to negligence. It doesn't seem like a big deal at first, but being able to control where your Pikmin are with 100% certainty is huge when it comes to not losing them.
Same goes for women and children, which is why I have to keep the chains locked.
You'll still be using Ochi for a lot of boss fights though, since they're often the only thing around for you to do when they appear. But there's still some really difficult boss fights towards the end of the game for the hardcore players and the players who get hard at weird things. But we want to look at one level that stands out among all other Pikmin areas. the Hero's Hideaway. Most Pikmin areas still feel like a video game level, especially in games that don't exist. But the Hero's Hideaway is a lived-in house that creates a familiar feeling. There's clutter on the floor, a stove that's been left on for way too long, and bugs loose everywhere in the house. I'm surprised it's taken them this long to come up with a concept like this. It's the only area in the game where I consistently kept the camera at a lower angle, as was initially advertised in the trailer. And there's no humans in this area, so it wasn't for nefarious reasons. Moss is Olimar's bitch, not to be confused with Olimar's bitch with misogynistic undertones. Caves are the main aspect of Pikmin 4 that was inspired from Pikmin 2. They were originally the main change Pikmin 2 made from Pikmin 1, besides adding criminals. But for some reason, they were removed in Pikmin 3. But they were able to bring them back in Pikmin 4 thanks to Ochi and what he does to the difficulty. And now, there are so many more caves in this game than there were in Pikmin 2. Caves add a unique experience to any Pikmin game that they're in, because time passes much slower within a cave. So being Dandori isn't as required. What this means is instead these can have some of the most difficult challenges in all of Pikmin. While you could take it slow, you can still beat Dandori so you don't lose the small amount of time you would lose in a cave and end up having some of the hardest challenges ever in any Pikmin game. These challenges include so many things from large bulbors, machine guns, and a transdimensional being that doesn't exist on our plane of existence but can still manipulate it and can only be dragged back to our plane with purple Pikmin, meaning purple Pikmin have power over the 5th dimension and are probably capable of traveling across the multiverse.
What the fuck?
Dandori battles are the successor to Two-Player Battle in Pikmin 2 and Bingo Battle in Pikmin 3, not to be confused with what my grandpa did to that poor woman after losing Bingo.
Why'd you bring a gun to bingo night, Grandpa?
It's the only aspect of Pikmin 4 that's worse than the other games to me. This is a purer form of Pikmin competition, since it's just two people being as Dandori as possible with some little things to spice it up or sabotage your opponent. But a grandpa with a gun is just more interesting. These battles are just really basic compared to the other two games. They're still fun, but there's much less variance to a Dandori battle versus a bingo battle. A bingo battle can have all kinds of interesting events and insane moments throughout the whole thing. And while Dandori battles can have similar moments, they're way more straightforward and expected. Simply because the nature of bingo battle is much more randomized and goal focused. There's just less customization options to Dandori battles too. It's overall a nitpick, and the battles are still fun, but I just miss the peak of Grandpa's degrading mental health.
Rest in peace, bingo battle. Grandpa had it coming.
But what if they added one of the best modes in the game just because they could?
Like God with gay people. Now with everything I've learned from Pikmin 4, I was able to make as much money as fast as possible, and all I had to do was stay up past my bedtime.
Now that I'm up past my bedtime, I'll be able to get money super efficiently. It seems that they have a Ring doorbell cam. I'll have to be Dandori to avoid getting spotted.
Use the vegan's advice.
Now, I am unrecognizable thanks to my Dandori.
Take things from a new angle. And then use force to prove I'm Dandori.
It's morning now, and they still won't respond to me, so I don't know what to do.
And now I have all this money that I want to show to you, but I still want this to be able to be considered a joke in a court of law. But even if I am caught, I can just say it came from this YouTube channel, and then you will be responsible for the stolen money instead of me. I never had to use the dog, though. I wonder what that was for.
And you're on tax duty. They never put a dog in jail for tax evasion.
Yo, I'm PMJ, and I've been doing research on how to get more people to like me. And I think I figured out the problem. When I open my mouth to talk, people leave. Hey guys, how's it Marioing?
Ew.
That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Why are you still here?
So that must mean the only thing that's holding me back is the sound of my voice. So I'm gonna fix this problem the only way I know how. Overanalyzing video games.
Well, there goes my biggest potential role model. As many of you have probably heard by this point, Charles Martinet will no longer be voicing the licenseless plumbers of the Mario series.
Which means he is completely worthless in my quest of making friends.
If Nintendo didn't think he was worth anything, then why should I? And there's all these other characters without their voice changed, so they must be worth more than Charles Martinet. I'll just have to take a look at all of the other Mario characters then to finally be able to improve my voice and make friends. And hey, maybe hit the like button on this video because research was uniquely difficult. Actor. God damn it, Jack Black! The first people to take a crack at Toad's voice were the developers of Wario's Woods, and they settled on this.
Hello.
Is Toad about to tell me to do my chores with the... For Mario Kart 64, they wanted all 8 main characters voiced or to at least have audio to go with all of their actions. So Koji Kondo, of all people, the most iconic video game composer of all time, quite literally creating the Mario and Zelda theme, was put in charge of voice acting for the game as well. So he got to work figuring out who was gonna voice who.
All right, we got Charles for Mario. That's pretty easy. Apparently, there's a white woman who can play Peach, and we got...
Can I voice Toad?
Fuck you, you're Luigi.
When Nintendo was making Mario Golf, Nintendo finally realized that making random employees voice their characters probably wasn't entirely ethical. And Koji Kondo just kept yelling at the French guy. But in Smash Bros, Bowser is still sound effects because Sakurai hasn't figured out how to change the voice files. Like, did you notice Samus still makes robot noises?
Does implying women are robots count as sexism? I mean, on one hand, ideally they would be.
I'll still run through a few more quick fun facts about some of the other voice actors though. The WarioWare cast all became fully voice acted, and Jimmy T got voice acted by this guy who is most famous for...
Dramatic entrance. Dramatic entrance.
Fawful was voice acted by this woman. She's awesome. Rabbit Luigi's voice actor is attractive. Nobody knows who voice acted Chain Chomps. This guy voices MC Ballyhoo. He's awesome.
Welcome to the Star Carnival.
And Prince Fluff was voice acted by someone who stars in hentai.
Yo, has this ever happened to you?
What the fuck?
Well, then you know what it's like to have been Nintendo for the last 20 years.
F-Zero 99 finally creating another F-Zero to technically revive the series, reinvigorating the idea that we could see a full F-Zero game soon. But it's also brought up the opposite point of view, that this proves Nintendo has no idea what to do with F-Zero, so they're making this, a recycled idea from 2 other games they've made instead of a new game. So which is it? Did Nintendo finally figure out how to fix the car, or did...
Ah, the GameCube era, the last time Nintendo cared about all of its children.
The fans' confusion would continue until Miyamoto would eventually give an interview with Smosh Games that stated they didn't really have any good ideas for new F-Zero games, and if a new controller presented a new idea, we could see a new game.
What do you mean the Wii didn't present any new ideas for an F-Zero game?
Sony straight up made sex game mechanics in Wii Dare. Why couldn't you come up with any ideas for a Wii F-Zero? Until finally, in 2023, a former Nintendo artist, Takaya Imamura, stated in an interview what I think Miyamoto's interview answer was missing that makes the length of the series' dormancy finally make sense.
The plumber has a driver's license.
Takaya stated that Mario Kart is just a bigger racing series than F-Zero, and Mario Kart takes up too much market space.
Ah, well, there's the problem. You see, that Mario Kart's not supposed to be there. It's all out of whack. It's all out of whack. And the creativity is so low. Look at it. Look at it. It is not supposed to be this low. This is not. There's just nothing left.
First of all, we have had plenty of supposed game revivals before, and they haven't always been revivals. Nintendo does just like remembering they have IPs sometimes.
Like my parents, but with children.
The Mario Kart problem is basically unsolvable. No matter what, they're gonna release another Mario Kart, and it's gonna end up taking up the Nintendo racing game market space. And honestly, it could be even worse than that.
I've been up all night, but I think I've finally figured out how to... It's worse than I thought.
You see, Nintendo has always had this perception of being a company of old men who don't understand the often younger demographic of gamers and, most importantly, their own fans. They seem to brush off the things the younger people / fans want in favor of doing what they want to do, just like your grandparents at family gatherings.
You know how it is. You're having fun at a family gathering until Grandpa pulls you over into the other room and you're like, what's going on, Grandpa? And then you look down and you're like, wah!
They gave us the regular Mario Party style, completely going against their insatiable will to innovate at every turn, no matter how bad an idea they might have.
Well, I mean, we don't need to drive the car. We could have 4 people push it instead.
And Nintendo would literally explode if they gave Mother 3 to the West, so we can't get that.
America hates Mother. They hate Mother. They hate Mother. They hate Mother. America hates Mother. They don't want Mother 3. America hates it.
And the fact that they're paying any attention to it at all, I think proves that they know what the fans want and are getting ready to give them exactly that. Which means that it's finally time to repair this car and get this baby on the road.
This fine has been issued by the state of Utah. You've been found guilty of causing a public disturbance and careless driving.
Nintendo and fighting games. Something that Nintendo struggles so hard to get right, and when they did get it right one time, they viewed it as the biggest mistake they ever made. Put him down. Obviously, Nintendo's main fighting game series is Super Smash Bros., and it is a masterclass of game design. One of the few games where playing both casually and competitively are equally fulfilling experiences. But with Nintendo being around for so long, this isn't their only attempt at creating a fighting game.
But it fucking should have been.
Urban Champion successfully simulates the streets of America when we abolish the Second Amendment. The goal of Urban Champion is to knock your opponent across multiple screens and eventually into the sewer. It was an incredibly simple game, even for the NES. Your options are block low, block high, punch low, punch high, or give in to your shit-based fate. The reason this whole game is so basic is because it was actually based off of the Game & Watch game Boxing. For some fucking reason. It really just didn't make sense to make this game. I mean, Nintendo was aware that NES games and Game & Watch games are on two different levels, so why would you essentially just port a Game & Watch game to the NES? I think it's because this is one of the more complicated Game & Watch games, and the controllers for it bear a passing resemblance to an NES controller.
Where is the line on racial stereotyping controllers?
The NES is an incredibly weak console. I agree. An NES sprite can only occupy a small space on the screen, and each sprite can only have 4 colors, which is pretty much 3 since transparency is its own color. And with games like Street Fighter needing an entire tile for Chun-Li's ass, it's not realistic to have fighting games on the system. And without being able to use large, complicated sprites, you end up with games like Urban Champion. So none of the fighting games on the NES ended up being very good, but Nintendo managed to figure out a solution: forceful removal of limbs. The characters and Joy Mech Fight are made up of these multiple smaller sprites instead of one big sprite. And you can use all these small parts working together to create a full-fledged fighting game character, minus the sex appeal. There is one problem with this fighting game. There's no walls. If you haven't played many fighting games, you might be a dumbass, but this is a big deal. Because without walls, there's technically nothing stopping you from getting a very slight lead and running away for the entire match. But Nintendo had a genius solution for this: massive burst of movement attacks. Attacks that send you forward or burst movement attacks are not uncommon in fighting games. They are often on more aggressive characters to help them get in, or in some cases even get out of danger. This means that your opponent has to be constantly alert to the fact that you could be in their range at any moment.
I would like to advise all women to make the same assumption about me.
But in Joy Mech Fight, everyone has them, so every character's actual range that they can fight at is actually the entire screen. This does lead to pretty polarizing fights where you're both terrified of the other person's movement options, and while it does mean that running away isn't a valid option, it also means that fights can get really chaotic once up close with you and your opponent bouncing everywhere, and if it doesn't go your way, you can take a lot of damage in a very short time. So you end up playing really passively anyway to ensure you don't get fucked up by Bok. It's not a bad game. There's still a lot of very interesting interactions you can have once you get up close.
Like with women.
But getting up close is rare and incredibly difficult to achieve without consequences.
Like with women.
But despite all the time they spent avoiding the genre, nothing can stop Nintendo from having a bad idea. And believe me, I've tried. And with the DSi having its very own camera, inspiration struck. Photo Dojo is a fighting game that, if released in the modern day, would be absolutely abused on social media.
Take a picture for taunt.
With the DSi's camera, you would take pictures of yourself doing various poses to emulate the moves you would have your characters do in a fighting game. And once you've completely created your own fighter for yourself, you get to play an incredibly basic fighting game. But just to make sure no one can have fun at all, you and your opponent have to hold the DS at the same time. Why did they even slightly think this was a good idea? The DS had download play. Let us do that. Why the fuck would I want to be fighting for control of the DS with a sibling? And not only could you just take it away if you were losing, but you can easily reach the button for your opponent's taunt or desperation move, making it much easier to further sabotage them. And not both sides of the DS have a D-pad, so someone has to use a button D-pad. And I can't use the naked version of my fighter when I'm playing with a sibling, and I can't coerce anyone else into playing this game with me.
Fuck this game.
Pokken Tournament. Finally fulfilling Pokemon fans' fantasies of getting to play out the epic fights in the anime in an actual game. The roster is great though. It's got a ton of beloved Pokemon, and they all have incredibly dynamic movesets with all kinds of move references, and it really feels like you're playing as the Pokemon. They put a ton of care into all of these movesets and made them feel faithful to how you think Pokemon moves would feel in real life. But that right there is the one problem with this game. If you look at Pokemon moves, there's an aspect of them that you probably didn't consider before. Attract, Baby Doll Eyes, Charm, Captivate, Tail Whip. They're generally long range. And when it comes to fighting games, excessive range can come with issues. In fighting games, long-range zoning moves are generally used sparingly. And while having some zoning is important to fighting games, it becomes a problem in overabundance. You can have range characters and even brawling characters with zoning options in any fighting game. But when there are too many zoning options in a game, nobody approaches each other and you just end up trying to hit each other from across the stage. And at that point, just play an FPS. And when pretty much every character has such a powerful zoning option, it leads to tournament finals that look like this. ARMS is so terrible. However, let's give ARMS a fair trial. ARMS was released back in June 2017 and was among the very first games announced for the Nintendo Switch back during the very first Switch presentation in January 2017. A lot of people were initially excited to see Nintendo creating yet another brand new IP after the success of Splatoon. Sure, we hadn't seen much of the game, and while bigger fighting game players weren't super excited for it, the same was true of Splatoon with the larger shooter community, and that turned out great. So, countless brand new Switch owners went to purchase ARMS when it was released, and the next joke writes itself. ARMS did have some fun modes and interesting characters to play. There's plenty of side modes, a single-player campaign for each character, you can stare at Twintel's character model, and of course, the regular fighting game mode. Obviously, top players of fighting games probably aren't playing the side modes super often, but what matters is if you want casual players to play the game enough to want to become professionals. You need engaging side modes to keep their attention. But technically, there are about as many modes in this game as there are in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so why don't any of these modes work like they do in Smash?
The concept is bad.
Range. Everything is about fucking range. And people online keep telling me Twintel isn't real, so that's not fun anymore either.
Is love too much to ask for?
The genre of fighting games is not built for an overhaul, and while it's not impossible to do, as they have shown, it's something I would consider to be on the same difficulty level of inventing a new religion. Most religions are slight offshoots of one another, and most people have already identified with the one they believe to be true. And the reason they're all very similar is because people want very similar things to come from religion. And any attempt to make your own religion from the ground up would be against what people want, and in some cases, being very against what people want. Is ARMS considered a cult? Probably, but that's not my point. What I'm saying is that people don't want ARMS or Pokken Tournament or even Joy Mech Fight. They just want to pray to Jesus the same way they always have. And all this is just to say, Super Smash Bros. Is the equivalent to Mormonism in the fighting game community.
So, Nintendo fighting games are ass. But hey, maybe it's just a testament to how good they are at making video games. And hey, maybe one day they will get enough people to join their cult and make another successful fighting game. But either way, this does confirm Masahiro Sakurai is a prophet of God. Yo, older Mario Party fans, I've got some bad news.
Remember those terrible Mario Party games that Nintendo released on the Wii and Wii U? Well, there were kids that grew up with those games, and they're all grown up now.
And now I'm prepared to blindly defend these games based on nothing but nostalgia. So let's go ahead and play these games again after so many years.
We're going to talk about things it does on the board that are actually great and would be really interesting if implemented into another Mario Party game.
So what did these games do right underneath all of the automobile-based disappointment? Besides making Kamek a playable character. What a sexy motherfucker. I mean that literally. My mom would not say no. In fact, I'd be disappointed if she did.
Before we get into it, we're going to go through a quick history of these games so we can catch the dumbasses in the crowd up to speed. From Mario Party 1 to Mario Party 8, the Mario Party games were developed by the company Hudson Soft. And many fans were enjoying the games, and they were selling really well despite releasing every year. But critics were generally unhappy with them. Which, I mean, makes sense. Imagine you're an adult gaming journalist playing a party game aimed at children alone in an office for the 8th time in a decade. I won. Get it? It's like I'm saying, I won, but I didn't actually win. However, in 2011, a rather prolific asshole would show up. Konami decided to wholly buy out Hudson Soft, and they completely merged into Konami, which meant Nintendo needed to find another Mario Party developer or else childhood friendships could continue unchecked.
Do you think God forgives Mario Party related sins?
ND Cube decided that for their first crack at the Mario Party series, they wanted to make a good first impression, and they would do this by pleasing the critics. They completely ignored their target audience and decided to please a small group of 30-something-year-old men. And their grand plan to please the critics was to introduce the automobile. Now this is Mario Party. If people have to think too hard about the game, it kind of loses its ability to be such a good backdrop to a larger hangout if there's too much strategy to be had.
So based on extensive research, Donkey Kong is the best character.
It does have to be better explained that doing this does change your dice roll, but the ability to make it more likely that you roll a 1 or a 6 is just a nice little optimization you can do. Super Mario Party was the closest we got to this, with every character having their own dice block, but every dice block was unique, which meant some characters were simply better than others, and then this became the truth. And it gets even worse when they try to balance the dice by taking away or giving coins. This could work in other Mario Party games, but this is by far the most inflated economy in any Mario Party game. So getting coins is almost no benefit, and losing them is almost no detriment. What the fuck is wrong with these things? Speaking of that, just general ways to go backwards would also be very interesting. Amiibo Party is a dog shit mode. Even though this mode is based directly off of the traditional Mario Party mode, they still fucked it up. Amiibo Party is essentially a tech demo for Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, a game known for
robbery, murder, perjury, loitering, merging onto the highway when there's technically enough space but there realistically isn't, opening their eyes while saying the prayer, making Nintendo fans really upset, and breaking all 10 commandments.
Bowser Party. Bowser Party was pretty much the entire justification for making the same mistake they made with Mario Party 9 again. I think the problem is there isn't a large, mildly sexual, but mostly intimidating beast following the car. The basic idea is you have 4 players in the car, each with 6 hearts, and the one guy who has asserted himself as the main character of the group controls Bowser with the gamepad.
Oh. Am I an asshole?
Each person in the car rolls their dice to try to get as far away from Bowser as possible, while Bowser uses 4 dice to chase them down. If Bowser catches up to them, they play a Bowser minigame, where every player tries to avoid getting hit by whatever weapon Bowser has to drain their hearts. But the Bowser guy is the one who owns the game and plays against computers in his free time and is way too good at all of these minigames.
Oh, I am an asshole.
But if even one of the 4 players is able to make it to the end before their hearts are drained to 0 and get the star, the 4 players win. But that'll never happen because the Bowser player always forces you to play on the Bowser map, where it is by far the easiest for Bowser to win.
This is why nobody loves me.
Even if that doesn't work, just let us have Bowser again in a capacity that isn't ban-worthy.
Let us play him, Nintendo. Let the children question their sexuality.
These games have been wholly abandoned by NDQ. They were repeatedly beaten down and ridiculed every time they tried to make a change to the Mario Party formula, or just any party game formula in general.
Which is fair.
They had a lot of bad ideas, and frequently misunderstood the ideas of both party games and, for some reason, Amiibo. Did nobody fucking playtest this? Nobody wants to tap an Amiibo to the gamepad over and over again. But anybody can have good ideas, no matter how many bad ideas they have. For a gaming example, just look at Xbox. They keep making terrible decisions for their gaming console, but they also made Game Pass, which is by far the best deal in the video game industry and is probably making them tons of money.
Or my mom, who frequently says messed up things about other races, but also decided to have sex sometime in May 2002. And especially Adolf. And now that you've done that, I'll be seeing you on the highway. That's me in the car behind you. I know you don't think it is, but that is me. I'm in that car, and soon I'll be in your car. It'll be you and me forever. Yo! I ranked everything in Super Mario Bros. Wonder completely arbitrarily, which means I can rank Hoppo based off his taste in Renaissance era art, and Luigi based off his political opinions. It's quite conservative. So let's not waste any time and get right into the ranking.
Elephant Yellow Toad. Smells like ass hair. Difficulty stars cause a class war between the levels. Red Yoshi. Do not look up Red Yoshi 12-year-old. It's exactly as bad as you think. Dry Bone. It's not polite to do that. At least use a bit of lube. Sound Off Badge. Sploosh. Blue Toad. Tastes bad. Mumsy. Mario, please don't undress people without their permission. Ninja Jump Party. Why is Nintendo so proud of ninjas? They just found out they made a character in the 80s and started putting them in modern day games without any rhyme or reason. Rargs in the Ruins. These blocks are like the Dark Shadow Man in the corner of your room, except he can only exist when not seen instead of when seen. Break Time Hot Hot Rocks. Nabbit cannot clear this level. This is some form of bigotry for sure. Beware of the rifts. I'd comment on the rifts, but they're very controversial politically, and I'm way too high off Wonder to give political opinions right now.
What if Trump kissed Joe Biden on the cheek?
Elephant Mario. Mario just wouldn't know how to handle a trunk. The case for the game. I can't eat it. Break Time Treasure Vault. Nabbit is yet again gatekept. How are Nabbit mains expected to compete in this game? Kongs. Kink Shamers. Master Poplin. This guy is a complete fraud. He just learned how to use a smoke bomb and then decided that he gets to hoard the wealth of the Shining Falls all to himself. And I can prove it too. He claims to have cleared all these levels already, but the Poplins are still locked up when you make it to the end of the levels, which means he hasn't cleared the level yet because then he would have freed the Poplin. Captain Toad. He may be the most attractive Toad, but he can't keep leaving Captain Toadette at home with nothing to do. Rolling Ball Hall. Do not play with your balls too much. It just starts to hurt. The cartridge for the game. I put it on a sandwich. Break Time Zip Go Round. There are so many break time levels in this game. What do I say about this one? It makes me want to look at paraplegic people. Spinies have caused Lakitu's ass extreme pain for years now. Ball forms. Yoshi inflation. Countdown to drop down. The woman next door has a door that's similar to these platforms. It takes exactly 4 kicks to knock down, 2 if I'm on drugs. Nipper plants. If I had dyslexia, these guys would be ranked much higher. Cloud piranhas. Sexualize them. Snoodles would probably kiss me. Invisibility badge. Not super interesting as one of the challenge badges, but I am in fact a straight male and am fascinated by the prospects. Errands. How do they reproduce? Pull, block, passage. I normally just say sex, but I guess some people would prefer that term. Sproings in the Twilight Forest. This is a fetish for someone. Ghosts. The image of dead Mario is funny, but Luigi coming from off-screen inside of a bubble will always be better. Bounce, bounce, bounce. We touch Hoppos so many times in this level and in so many different places, we definitely touched some hippo balls. This thing Best Buy gave me when I bought the game. I ate the wrapper. Hoppo. His taste in Renaissance era art is alright. Fluff Puff Peaks Palace. What do you think Bowser Jr. did in all of these palaces all alone? I mean, likely around teenager age male, left alone in an enormous building where no one can hear him. Koopas, repeatedly proven to be an intelligent species in most forms of Mario canon, and yet are still just fodder and don't even fight for their own rights. Potaboo, how content he must be to jump there for all of time. He has no other cares, for if he did, he would move, as we have seen them to be capable to do, and yet he stays in his spot jumping for all eternity. Triple Threat Deluge. How progressive. Rargs. I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I don't want to shout into the mic. Add blocks badge. Sorry about that. Ho-Hos. Better name for Hooters. Swaying Ruins. It is just now dawning on me that I will never get Nickelodeon slimed. Knucklefest Bowser's Bullet Bills. Daisy Elephant Ass. Daisy. She forces Luigi to do things he may not want to, but it at least gets him out of his comfort zone. I'm of course talking about BDSM. Poppycat Forms. Where is the character that is allowing us to jump? Can we kill him and remove the Y-axis? Ending pictures. When you die, what picture will you see in your final moments? Mine is this one. Fluff Puff Peaks. Toadette. We have never seen a toad give birth officially, which means we don't know how toads even reproduce, which makes the fate of Toadette's bosom mysterious. Bowser. He's just attractive. Not much more to say. Lakitu. A champion among ass men. Fat Forms. Yoshi Inflation. Light Switch Mansion. King Boo only appears when drugs are in play. What does that say about Luigi? Luigi isn't a raging conspiracy theorist despite how far right he is. Slide on.
Side on. Side on. Side on. My beloved, Sidon, from the Legend of Zelda, Sidon, my beloved idol, man, Sidon.
Kamek. Nobody talks about how hot this questionable gendered creature is. Piranha Plants. This guy gets in one Smash game and then is practically the main enemy of an entire Mario game. Piranha Plants on parade, and it's so deserved. This guy can sing better than the host of heaven. Yellow Toad. The peak of physical appearance if it wasn't for our final two remaining things to rank. The two elephant forms, Peach and Luigi. They're both beautiful, but they can't be equal, for equality is a myth, which means we have to choose, and number one goes to Elephant Luigi.
And that's the ranking complete. But before you go, I'm legally required to tell you to leave a like if you think the video deserved it, and to not fuck an elephant. It's illegal. I checked. Holy shit, you made it to the end. I gotta be honest, I didn't think anyone would. But since you did, thank you. Thank you for everything you've ever done, watching a video, liking or commenting on a video, even just subscribing. It all means so much. But for 2024, we're gonna do even better, okay? Goal is 5,000 subscribers if there is not a new Nintendo console. If there is, 10,000 at least. We're gonna ride that wave to the top, baby. We exploit them. We're gonna exploit Shiggy McGee for every tiny little modicum of thing that he's worth.